Water?
Thank you. Water is
I've
good.
got one going, but yeah, I'll take another one.
Take another one? Yeah.
Thank you.
It's warm.
It is toasty.
Well, I can tell you right now, James, if you don't know what you want to get started, he's going to tell you right now, financing. Find out what your financing is, and then we can kind of go from there. Because a lot of people, they'll come in here and be like, forward.
Right,
So-
and so,
There's Kyle too. He'll come into here. He'll talk about hard money. It's always an option as well. And then trying to get those guys pre-qualified to see exactly what financing looks like, and we can go from there as well. Unless you guys have own lenders, it's option two.
but that's exactly why I'm here, to see
Yeah.
kind of what it's looking like over here. And I, you know, I had no idea what the action was like over here. It's been so long since I've lived here versus visiting. I've been visiting off and on since like 17, and we had made the decision that we were gonna move out here, but then COVID happened, so we had to push it back
Oh, yeah.
a little while. So now we're here.
Welcome. Welcome. You're stuck here now.
Yep. Looks that way.
Tatiana, how long you been here?
For 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Nice.
We moved from Moscow, Russia
Okay.
in 2015. So my husband, he graduated from the Washington School of Business.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and I've recently sold my floral business, and I'm just open to new opportunities. So I
Nice.
actually work in real estate in Moscow as a lawyer, and we also had some projects there, but here it's kind of different.
Yeah.
So many different laws and rules and everything. So I'm trying to dive deeper
Yeah.
and get some experience, knowledge, friends, connections, whatever.
Have you done a deal in what in the
Not
States?
yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just like kind of looking at the different opportunities and actually markets. So I was thinking about starting with something small, probably.
Yep.
Maybe in Detroit area or even higher, because prices
Yeah.
there are totally
Oh,
different.
compared? Oh my god.
Yeah, but
Oh, anywhere in the you're looking outside the country, out of the state.
but it has owns like cons and pros, right?
Yeah.
So it's cheaper, but you have to actually be there. So I'm
Yeah,
kind
about
of,
to say, do you have like teams set up if you were to buy this? Like, are you looking for just move-in ready kind of stuff? Like, throw a lot of cash at
for
it?
the first deal, yeah, probably like moving ready, trying to rent it out and
Yeah.
then see how it goes. But it's hard to find a cash flowing property.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. It's almost impossible.
Yeah,
It's about breaking even and then hopefully refinancing once the market cools down or the rates cool down.
yeah, right. You're absolutely right. So I'm thinking about maybe find a deal and a partner
Yeah,
like who is more experienced. So yeah,
nice.
something like this.
All right. Well, James will definitely go over that. I know he has experience, I think, outside the state. I don't know, to be honest, but I know he has an opinion about it. So, well, there he is. See? I told you he's not that tall.
Here walks
He
in.
must be good at what he does. He must be really good at what he
I see an
does.
intimidating factor over here.
I got size on, he got width. It's terrible.
How's everyone doing?
Hi.
Good.
How are you guys?
Good.
The sun finally came out.
Right. Yeah. I was like, hey, nice drive. Had a little bit of rain, but quite nice.
Yeah. It's for
Yeah.
We just want to make sure everybody has everything they need.
No, we kind of dissipated
Then we
out.
disappeared.
I'm just kidding.
Then we disappeared.
Just the vibe that I was getting there for a minute.
Hey Max, do you think this is it for today?
There was like 2 more maybes.
Okay.
So I don't know.
It's
Maybe
good. It's a
another
little
5
bit,
minutes.
it's a little bit smaller today, so it's good. Last time we were like, we're overflowing out, so it was getting me hard.
In the lobby.
So, well, cool. Well, we'll get going on this. Hey, thank you for everyone for coming out. So we can get this thing working.
Okay, jump on in.
There you go. Cool. All right, we're gonna get going. Well, since there isn't a ton of people here, everyone, what's your name?
Tatiana,
Tatiana?
Mhm.
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Dan?
Who's that?
Dan?
Dan. So Tatiana, Dan.
I'm another Dan.
Another Dan. That's
Yeah.
easy. 2 Dans in the
Yeah.
back.
Suraj,
Suraj,
Suraj.
nice to meet you.
And Latasha.
And Latasha.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna try to remember this.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, just before we get going, so the whole point of this class is really what we like to do is take people through how we underwrite properties, and then also really just how we do business in general. To kind of walk the client through like how we deliver deals, how we set up our business, the brick and mortar behind that, how we help our clients through the process, and then just how we analyze them and then deliver them to you guys. And so at the end of the presentation, there is a questionnaire. If you want to hear from us afterwards, just go ahead and fill out the questionnaire. And if you don't like what you hear, just don't fill it out and we won't question you. So we keep it very, very simple. So it's just, because that's our big thing is we're not very pushy salespeople here. We're like, hey, we're gonna lay out the facts, we're gonna lay out the plan, and then you can make your own decision at that point. And so again, if you want to receive more deal flow or meet with us after, because what we like to do is have a presentation and get you guys to come in the office to really drill down on like what your goals are, what are you trying to accomplish, how can we get you there, and we'll set up a one-on-one. You just fill that, and then we'll get you into the office. So, cool. Well, we'll dive right into this. So I am James Dainard, for those who don't know me, and then this is my partner, Will Heaton. So we've been business partners now for 18 years. So we've been working together for since 2005. How we got in the business was we were working for a local investment company. Actually, Will sold one of the owners a car, and the guy's like, "You need to come work for us." And then I was a senior in college at the time, living with him, and he's like, "I'm gonna go knock on people's doors and get them to sell their house." And so that's what he started doing. I started knocking doors while I was in college, and then that's kind of how we got going in our real estate journey. And so we've been in the business in this market for a really long time now, 18 years. We've seen all different types of market cycles. We've seen great ones. We've seen terrible ones. 2008, we saw the pandemic go up through the roof. Then we saw what happens when rates go way too fast. And so, but based on all those experiences, that's how we're looking at deals. It's going, okay, if this is happening, how do we mitigate risk here? How do we put the right plan on it? And then change things around for the market. But to give you kind of a background, me and Will kind of divide and conquer. So Will focuses primarily on Intrust funding. He does a lot of the final calls for the lending business, and then he runs a lot of our apartment renovations and our new construction, because we're both active investors. And so he runs the kind of new development in the multifamily. I primarily run the brokerage, working with the investment team on and off market, sourcing the deals, underwriting the properties, putting them under contract, and working with the clients dispoing them out. And then I do a lot of our fix and flip and small multifamily renovations. And I do some of the interest funding underwriting when we're looking at deals here as well. So that's kind of how we have it kind of segmented out. We're very big believers of too many cooks in the kitchen's a bad thing. And so he runs his set, and I run my set over here. But since starting the brokerage, so we've been now working together for 18 years. We started Heaton Dainard in 2010. Give you a quick background on why we started Heaton Dainard is when the market crashed in 2008, no one wanted to buy real estate whatsoever. You couldn't give it away for free. Like literally we could have a house for $1, no one would take this house. And so how we created Heaton Dainard was purely to help people buy property. We designed it to mitigate risk, help the client through the process because people were too terrified to buy real estate. And so we had to show them how to buy it. And we showed them how to buy it because we were really active buyers 2008, 9, and 10. And so by doing it and then proving that it worked, we then created this template. That's how we started the brokerage. So once we sold the property, we could handhold people through that process and then we could get the listing down the road.
And you're talking about from the buyer perspective, the fix and flipper, or you're talking about in general, like people wanting the house to maybe hold for a rental or whatever.
During that time,
Yeah.
no one wanted anything for everything. It was like it was bizarre world. We would go down to the auctions, no one were down there. Like when subprime mortgages blew up, it was like the whole thing turned off. Like, and we were really active off-market guys back then. We were doing probably 15 to 20 deals a month. We were doing probably more than anybody in the whole state. And all of a sudden, like that, no one was buying anything. And not only that, there was no money available. And so it was just a lot different back then. And so today, It's different in its own way. There's different competitions. There's a lot more education, so a lot of people in the market. But back then it was hard in its own way. This is actually relatively easy to where it was before. When we were buying property back then, we were buying at 18 to 20% interest rates. We were getting charged 4 to 6 points per loan. And so we had to absorb all those costs and all those deals because there was zero money out there. And not only that, you had to come up with 25 to 30% down to get into these projects. And so it was like you had to have a lot of capital and they were going to charge you a ton of money. And so that's why also no one really wanted to buy. But we didn't really have a choice because we had just started our business in 2008.
Oh.
We literally had just signed the lease, moved everyone in, and then the next month it turned off. And so, but it was all a good thing. The bad experiences turned into really good life lessons. We learned a lot of lessons during that time, and that's why we can do what we do today. It's just by kind of getting beat up a little bit in 2008. Since founding the brokerage in 2010, we have sold. We've been involved in over 3,500 transactions with investors just like yourselves. So our whole bread and butter is working with investors that want to buy fix and flip property, development, buy and hold, rentals, apartments. That is what we do. And since 2010, we've also sold over $1 billion of sales directly to investors just like yourselves. And then our brokerage has been known to really helping clients getting properties in tip-top shape, giving them the best design and selling them. And we've helped over 1,500 different types of homes where we've been the designers, picking the paint colors, tile, everything through there. So what we do is we're going to source you guys on and off market properties. We're going to give you guys our analysis for what we think is highest and best use. So we might look at a property and we think that this is the right plan for it. There could be multiple different highest and best use depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But we are going to run our analysis for you guys and provide that every time we bring you a property. And then we're going to help you after you buy the property is execute that plan. Okay. Now we are not going to be doing all the work for you, but we have a full staff that we're going to go over that's going to help you, consult you, get you referrals and work with you, because our job is not only just to find you guys a good deal, but it's to train you guys to be investors to where you can buy for the next 5 to 10 years and grow your portfolio, grow your liquidity, and become successful investors. And if we're doing all the work for you, you're not going to learn it. And so we're going to give you guys all those tools. So the services that our brokerage provides, we just kind of touched on this, is we're going to find you guys a property on or off market. We get it secured. We're not a brokerage that's going to go out and show you houses. We're going to have contracts already contracted. They're under contract. If someone at our doesn't buy it, we buy it in house. So we've already vetted all the numbers at that point. We're not going to be. Who's worked with a traditional broker trying to buy investments? A little bit.
Yeah.
And typically what they're going to do is put you on like a list, and they're going to send you a listing and be like, hey, I think this is a good buy.
Yeah, basically.
You will not get that from us. We are going to be laying out in detail. We think that we think this is a buy because of this is the price that you can buy it for right now. This is what you need to do to it. This is what the margin is going to be. So we're going to give you something that's already secured. We're going to underwrite that, providing you with comps, data points, and an estimated budget sheet at that point. Once you buy the property, we're going to get you contractor referrals, whether it's general contractors, subcontractors. What we like to do is have people come in. Oh, did someone just drop me that laptop? Hold on one sec, guys. I have to.
You tell me.
Hold on one sec. This guy just drove my laptop all the way out from West Seattle because I was walking a property.
Yeah.
So I got to pay him real quick.
Honestly, it was right around here. 4 blocks from my place. Oh, wow. Yeah, not at all. Where are we going? There he is. What's up, buddy?
Oh, that's smelly.
What's your shirt out there? Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm sorry, guys. I was at a client's house today, and I was helping him with the budget. And then I left the house. I left it right on the kitchen table.
Wow.
Which
Yep,
I got to
it
the office.
happens.
I was like, I don't want to drive to West Seattle right now, please.
No, really.
Luckily, we had someone. So we're gonna get you guys contractor referrals, financing referrals to take down the property, and then with every property we sell, you guys get free design services. That's included in all the fees. There's no extra fees on there. So getting started. So before you guys get started, so who in this room has bought an investment property or has worked on one? Yeah, what have you worked on so far?
We've got a few, like a handful down. Got about 4 doors up here in Washington, and then about 10 or 11 down in Mississippi.
Okay. It's like by the rental programs out there?
We just bought them ourselves, to be honest. We didn't use any rental program down there, but yeah, they're rentals.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't really need much rehab. Up here, we've done some rehabs on. We've done some flips, but poorly, probably with contractor partners that we didn't have enough control with.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a mix up here, and some primary residences that we've just rented out after we've moved. So.
Yeah, and that's what we tell people before they get going. You want to start building your bench of people because of that same thing. No matter how long you've done this for, and trust me, I've had guys where I've worked with them for 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden, just like that, they're just terrible. And you're like, what? After all the money I paid you, all the then they just kind of blow up. And the construction, you guys, is the hardest part of this whole business, right? Like when you're buying investments where you can make 30-40% return on your money, it is not going to be easy. And so the hardest part is managing this group of people and making sure you can stay in budget. And how you can manage them better is by having a big bench. Because the best thing you can do is take a job away from someone and give it to someone else over there. Because what happens is you get like on this handcuffs where you're constantly like just going to the same well, and then they can do whatever they want with you. So before you guys get going, and we'll help you build this bench, but we always tell people start talking. The more resources you have, the better. And so you should always try to have 2 reliable general contractors, 2 subcontractors for every line item. Like I always try to make sure I have 2 to 3 electricians, 2 to 3 plumbers I can call, and I'm always talking to more. Our company's always talking to more and more people and pricing them, so we have more referrals to give you guys as well. You want to have a dependable hard money lender. They can fund those deals right away. Especially here, you got to have that set up because most of our transactions close. Like John just sold a property and it closes in 3 days? Yeah. They're very quick closes. Mm-hmm. How we get these big discounts is being able to close quickly. Or that house in West Seattle I was just talking about, it was listed for $850,000. We bought it for $740,000. The neighbor's house just sold for $1.4. That's a good buy.
Yeah.
But we got it because we go, hey, seller, we're waiving inspection. We're coming in at a 5-day close. And they're like, and so we closed it in 5 days and they knocked $110,000 off the price. And so for us, being prepared allowed us to get that discount. And that's with them knowing their neighbor just sold right next door. And so just by having that bench is going to go a long ways. And then you always want to have a conventional lender too, because you never know what's going to happen. There was a couple flip properties in this last summer where I was like, this isn't going well, right? Rates went up 45%. Market started freezing out. We had to refinance some of those because we were going to have to keep them longer. And so if we don't have that person ready to go and we don't know what our options are, that's going to dictate what kind of deals I'm buying. And so just having that person, you always want 2 conventional lenders and 2 commercial lenders too. Because a lot of us, is anybody self-employed in here? That's where you want to be with portfolio and commercial lenders. Because the traditional ones, they don't like us self-employed people that much. We don't fit their little box. And so, but always have those ready to go for your bench. And then you want to get pre-qualified. It allows you to make, you're not going to miss that good deal if you don't have your hard money set ready to go. Like if I have something good sent to me and I have to call that person and say, well, give me 24 hours to line up my financing, the deal's going to be gone by the time I call back. And so being prepared, you're not going to miss that good deal. You can make a quick decision. Quick decisions get you the best buys typically. And then you're ready to go with your takedown financing, permanent financing at all times. Access to money is by far the most important thing for an investor. And so getting qualified with all 3 hard money, regular financing portfolio is really, really important to have. So once you kind of get set up with that bench, we're going to talk about first is the fix and flip. And so we're going to cover fix and flip and buy and hold. So how our brokerage works is it's not, you don't come in the office and we don't assign you a broker that's going to show you a bunch of different investments. You're going to be working with investors that specialize in certain, or brokers that specialize in a certain type of field. So we have our fix and flip team, which is made up of 5 brokers. between all three counties. Like John Whitney's in the back, he is one of them. He works in South King County, the east side. You've been with us, what, 11 years now?
Yeah.
So he knows those neighborhoods like the back of his hand.
Mhm.
And so the reason we do that is we want our brokers being specialized in not just the area. Like you might be working with a couple different people because we want that broker to really understand the values, the product, what's going on there, what we'll sell for, and they have a really good read on that market. And so it's broken up by Snohomish, King, and Pierce County. And so you might be working with numerous different brokers. It's going to come more down after we do your one-on-one with what is your liquidity, what is your skill set. And based on your liquidity and skill set, we're going to say you should probably be in these geographical areas. Because, like if you want, if you have 75 grand and you don't have a lot of rehab experience, but you want to buy in Seattle, we're going to try to get you out of Seattle. Because typically Seattle's going to give you a beat up old house. So you need the skill set for it. And the price points aren't going to be 75 grand. It's not going to get you long enough in there. And so we're going to try to get you into a product that will work better for you. And so we have our acquisition brokers. They are looking for on-market deals, off-market deals, and we're cultivating and contracting them. Then we have our support staff, which is we have two full-time. We have Rachel's our off-market transaction coordinator, so she's the one working on all our off-market deals, handles all the paperwork with you guys when you come in to sign. And then we have Carrie, who's our main transaction coordinator. She does she's our transaction manager. She's been with us 10 years, so she oversees all files. When you come in to sign all your paperwork, she'll be sitting down, going through every different line item with you, debriefing you on the whole way through. And then Grace is our assistant that just kind of helps on anything as far as dropping off key boxes, setting up your scheduling from there. And then our listing team isn't like a normal listing team. So we have 4 brokers that work with all of our clients when they buy the property and they go to get it ready to sell. The listing team doesn't come in at the very end. They're going to come in as soon as you buy that property. And they can meet with you once a week on site to walk through the property, go over layouts. They can meet with your contractor. They can go over specs, but they're going to be helping you with paint colors, tile, sourcing materials for floors, cabinets, and countertops. You don't need to use any of our design that we recommend, but they are here for you to do it. Now, I would suggest that you would kind of go with their tone because they really do understand architecture, style, design, and we sell over 200 to 250 homes a year on market that are flipped or brand new, and we know what people want and don't want.
Yeah.
And so they have the knowledge in there. In addition to, all 4 of these brokers have all worked on my own houses. Like many of them I don't even design my own houses anymore. I used to design every one of them from 2005 to 2015. Now they do all the hard work for me. And so they're that good that I can just trust them to do it. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, is our brokerage has something called a client service manager. So when you guys buy this property, Ryan is going to be helping you with the construction process. So if you are needing additional quotes, if you need a roof quote, they'll get you 3 roof quotes. If you need a plumber, he's going to get you a new plumber referral. So he is out there all day long meeting with contractors, general contractors, getting bids from them, referring them out to clients, checking their work. And then once he's kind of vetting them, he sends them out to our clients. Ryan is not a project manager, though. He is not going to run your job site. He's there to help you run your job site. And so, but he is there at any given time. Quick also background on him is he was my project manager for over 10 years. So he knows construction really well. And not only does he know construction, he knows flip construction. Flip construction is different than other construction because we have to do it in a way where we're like, all right, this bad thing happened, something unexpected happened. How do we fix this in a cost-effective way? And so that's what he's really good at doing is going, okay, here's the issue. Here's 3 different ways that we could do this issue. This is going to cost this much. This is going to cost this much. This is going to cost this much. But by able to articulate that to these contractors, it helps keep them under control. The worst thing you can do is go to a contractor and go, how much do you think this is going to cost?
Oh, $1 million?
They're gonna give you a big number, right? And so he's there to help mitigate that for you guys. So you have a full team that kind of help you through your fix and flip process. So, and kind of what our whole principle behind our business is our goal is to provide you with the set of tools that you need to be successful and the extensive resources to guide you from start to finish. It's up to you to execute. So we're going to give you everything, the design, the plan, a rough budget, and the referrals, but you got to manage it from there. So the big difference between our acquisition team and most brokerages is everything that we send you is gonna be an actual price. There's no bidding on it. It's not starting price is this. You don't know, you don't need to go to the max or like, what do you need to figure out your max? Everything has been secured under contract and we've already vetted all the numbers at that point. How we work though is on a first come, first served basis. We do not take more money for the properties. Even if we have 3 clients come in and one says they'll pay more, we will never take it. We have had clients buy out, like if you came through the property and you're like, I'll take it. You've cashed your second hand, the deal's yours now. You come in right after her and go, I want this deal. We'll say, sorry, she came first. She's done deal, but we've had some, all of a sudden, that person made 10 grand. They walked away and they're like, that was the easiest walkthrough I ever did. So pricing doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. Pricing's fixed. And then every time that we send you a property, it's never gonna be like, hey, you can just buy this property for this. We're gonna give you detailed walkthrough notes, a deal pro forma, exit strategy, rehab plan specs, and a CMA to back up the values. We'll go over that more in a second. Our listing services are, when we've talked about this, our listing brokers are designed and budgeted, trained. They know construction, they know cost, they know how to keep your costs under control. Not only that, they know how to make it look really good as well. They're gonna be also giving you up-to-date market updates. So every time you buy a property, we're gonna put you on a market update. So every time there's a new house hitting market, going pending or sold, you're gonna know exactly what it is. When it comes up, they're gonna take a look at that comparable. If they're seeing anything change during that time, they're gonna give you a phone call and say, we need to either twist the plan up or, we need to just keep going forward at this point. So they're gonna keep you up to date with what's going on in the market throughout your whole project. They can do a monthly or weekly job sites with you. They are available for you at any time. If you just if you want them to come out and walk it with your general, they can meet you weekly, they can meet you monthly, whatever you want to do. They bring the client service manager with you every time too. So like if you guys are getting going on your project, if there's an issue, the broker and the client service manager will come out and then they're gonna help you with all your kind of design and rehab specs from there. All right, so now that we kind of talked about the team, we're gonna talk about how does it work? What is the meat and potatoes of this? So this is a deal that was sent out to our clients that was finished all the way through. If you sign up with us, after you do your one-on-one, you're gonna start getting these emails. They're gonna come in kind of 2 ways. Either it's gonna be in a nice fancy, where it's a little bit more laid out and with like borders and headers and all that stuff, or it's just gonna be in a straight Outlook message, but it's always gonna have the exact same information on there. The first part's always gonna be the just general description. Where's the property located, general information about it, area of the property, and just kind of your general fluff. Now here is the most important parts that come into the property. So the next block will have location, then it'll be the price, that's $410,000 for this property. That includes all fees and costs. The only fee it does not include is we don't have anything set up for closing costs if you're borrowing a loan. Some of our clients pay cash, some pay loans, so we don't put that in there, but all other closing costs will be in there. So roughly if you're borrowing, it'll be like another $1,000 to $2,000 for your title insurance policy. Then we're gonna put in our estimated fix-up, what we think the value is, and then estimated profit without leverage in there. The whole point of this is just to give you a quick snapshot because we wanna make you guys efficient too. We don't wanna send you guys a bunch of stuff that you're like, oh, this isn't for me, this isn't for me. And so we just try to give you the bullet points right there. Like you might look at that and go, I'm not interested in a $150,000 renovation, not for me, and just move on to the next deal. So this is kind of just the core bullet points. Then we're gonna give you a snapshot of what needs to be done to the property, new windows, create master suite, add half bathroom on main floor, add bath on second floor. This is really kind of the scope of work that we're saying needs to be happening. And then we're gonna list out our comps from here. Now, in these 3 links, you'll be able to then verify all this information. The first thing you're always gonna have is a link to all the photos. The worse the property is, the more photos you will have. Again, our goal, well, typically how almost every one of our transactions goes, we're usually only walking about 1 person through the property. Because we wanna give everyone all the information so upfront that they're like, okay, this is for me or it's not for me. Because the last thing I want you to do is hop in the car, drive down to Tacoma at 4 o'clock just for you to get there and go, this is not the house for me. And you just wasted 2.5 hours of your day. And so the worse the property, the more photos we'll have. Typically it's gonna have 30 to 100 photos in there. So like this house here, we had a big budget for it because they needed all the systems, But overall, it was more like an estate house, kind of grandma's house. It wasn't too beat up. With some paint and some flooring, it would have been pretty move-in ready for a rental for this area. Not too bad. We definitely sell them a lot worse than this. But then after you go through the photos, you're going, okay, this looks like something I could maybe entertain. Then the next link is going to be to our Performa. So, and then we're just rolling out a brand new one right now to where you guys can actually be able to change it up, like with your rate and your points, and just kind of be able to do it on site. But how we have it set up right now, the new Performa comes out next week, is we have it set up for 3 different options. Okay. How it works is the first is always going to be the core information in the deal. $410 to buy it. Then our fix up at $130,000. Then we had a value of $699. The last box isn't that whole time. So we think that you're going to have this property from start to finish for 9 months. The reason that's important is we need to account for 9 months of debt cost during that time if you're taking it down with leverage. But this is going to be the 3 different scenarios. The first one's going to be in cash because some of our clients do come in, they pay all cash. Where they're paying $410 for the property, if they're rehab, their total project cost is at $541, another $2,500 just for miscellaneous expenses, taxes, insurance, so those kind of items. Your total direct cost will be at $543, $500, $699, backing out the commissions, the excise tax, title, escrow costs. The total net profit on this deal was going to be $100,000. The issue with this box here is you would need to come up with $543,000 to do this deal for 9 months, which most investors don't just sit on that much cash. I know I don't. As an investor, my job is to get the highest cash on cash return and get the most amount of velocity on my money. If I only have so much to work with, I want to get it out and in as fast as possible, and I want to get the highest possible return. You do that with leverage. Cash is good for mitigating risk, but you're never going to grow it as fast. And that's why majority of the people that flip in this business, including myself, is we set everything up with hard money. Because what it allows us to do is do numerous deals at one time rather than just doing one. But if you're just getting started and you are sitting on some cash, I do suggest to leverage less, because if you're just getting going, you're learning your processes anyways. So, but this is going to set it up for cash, which would be, so 410, 131, 699 minus all costs, $100,000 in profit, which is going to be an 18.5% return deal in 9 months. Now, the next 2 blocks are set up for, these have already been 100% qualified with Intrust funding, our lender in-house. Okay, so we know that you can fund this deal in 48 hours set up this way. The 2 kind of programs, the first one I'm not going to spend too much time on. This is our 20% down program. This is where someone's just coming in with 20% down. They're coming up with the rehab out of pocket, and they're servicing that way. The reason people will do that is if they're sitting on more cash and they just, because hard money costs anywhere between it's 12% and 2 points. And so if you're not making 12% on your money or it's just sitting in the bank, sometimes it's good to just put it against the property. But majority of the times it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and I'll show you why. Because on this property, if they're paying $410, they're putting the rehab at $131, they're coming up with a down payment of $82,000. They're coming up with the 20% down at $410, but then they're coming up with the $131 out of their own pocket plus the debt cost. Now they're paying less because they're borrowing less, but their total cash out of pocket on this deal after the 9 months is going to be $245,000. Now that is a lot less than the $550,000, but this is why everyone pretty much opts for this. So this is our construction loan. And so what it is you can come in with anywhere between 15 and 25% down, depending on what the property is. And then Intrust funding, you're going to come in, and instead of putting down 20% of the purchase price, you're going to be putting down roughly 20% of the total project costs. So you're going to come in. Okay. So the debt, your total project cost right here, instead of the down payment would be 20% of 410, but now we're going to be doing it up to 541 because now this client came up with a down payment of $135,000 to buy this property, but now we're financing them back 130 of it back to them. So they're coming up with 135, but we're paying them back 130 over the life of the construction. Intrust funding usually breaks it off into 4 different draws. So it would be like, on this property right here, you're going to be getting a check for like $40,000 on closing, $40,000 on the second, 40, and then 25 to close it out. And so the reason why everyone uses this, including myself, is because if I'm making On this property here, I'm borrowing a little bit less. The profit is 58,000. Whereas if I'm borrowing a little bit more, now I'm at 49,000. So I lose $8,000 more by doing it this way. But my cash out of pocket goes down from 250 down to 175, and my return goes from 23% to 28%. And so for me, if I'm going to leverage, I'm just going to leverage the tilt and get the highest possible cash on cash return. But going back to what I was saying earlier is this investor here is making 18.5% with his $550,000.
Yeah.
For me as an investor, if I have 175, I can do 2.5 deals where I'm making 28% rather than 18% on one. And so if I'm doing 3 of these deals or 2.5, that's going to put me at $125,000 to $140,000 in profit on a 9-month basis rather than 100. That's a 40% increase in margin. And that's how investors that's how we grew our whole business 2008, 9, and 10 was lever up, we only had so much money. We just lost all our money in 2008. And so we were working with a very small pool. And so we had to grow that pool. You grow it fastest by leveraging correctly. If I'm making 40% more return every year, that's going to exponentially grow for a 2, 3, 4 year period. And so that's why leverage is so key with this. So once you go through the property, you've looked through the photos, you're saying this is doable. I looked at the financial calculator. I like the return on this deal. I have the money to do it. Then you keep clicking through, and then we're going to get the next link is going to take you to what we think you should be doing with this property. What's the style of it? What's the architectural theme? And we're going to provide you with a book of going, hey, this is what this house will look like later. So our company has 12 different versions of different design books. We have 12 versions of these 4 styles. The reason we have 12 versions is we have different budgets for each one. So if we're doing a mid-century house down in Tacoma, we're probably going to put a little bit lower specs in than we would in Seattle. And so they have different types of variances of what the design will be and what they cost. So after you go through, you go, okay, I like the design of the house, I like the feel of it. Then we're going to break down to how do we come up with that $130,000 number? Because who is on wholesaling lists right now where they get random deals sent to them? You guys aren't getting all the internet spam of all the deals?
Like, do you mean any
I get
wholesale?
the Vestas stuff occasionally.
So you see their rehabs, right?
Yeah.
The rehab will be like, this project needs $40,000 to $100,000 swing. It's like, because that's how most brokers are going to present it to you, is going roughly about this much. Whereas we take a very much more of a technical approach and saying, hey, we came up with 130,000 based on this logic. And so we're going to break down that 130 number. So how we break down the 130 number is we take rough calculations of all the costs. We use historical rates over the last 6 months of what our clients are paying today for installing floors, installing windows, and we're adding this into our budget. It was really troublesome to stay on top of this with inflation. We were having to change our budget sheets like every 3 months to keep up costs. And then we have everything broken down by install rate and material costs. So you can take it, it's very digestible, and then you can bring it to contractors and say, hey, I have my budget based on these 2 logics. Where am I off here? And then we always say that you got to verify your own costs though, because my costs are going to be different than yours. Some of my clients will smoke my costs, some will be way above it, depending on what their skill set is. But we're going to give you kind of a budget breakdown in this email of how we came up with that number. So for example, how you read these, and we just came up with a new version of this too. So we have all new spreadsheets rolling out this week for our clients. But how this broken down, like this specific section, we had $9,500 budgeted before tax for this house to rewire it, or a portion of it. The house was 2,800 square feet, but we knew we only had to rewire 2,000 of it. So we had 2,000 square feet at $3 a foot, which is what our electricians have quoted us for, just for roughing in the Romex. Then we break it down by fixture, another $2,000 for trimming it out, and then we had light fixtures. We had each fixture was going to be $20, and then each line item was going to be $25 to install it. So we break it down that logical way. Like you got to do 12 lights here. Electrician charges you $25 to install it. You can use this spec, which here's the spec at $20. And so that's how we're going to always break down our budgets through every line item in the house. Then you can take that, bring it to your general and say, I want to go through this, and it's broken down in a very logical way to where they can say, that's reasonable, that's reasonable, that's reasonable. And so we try to do it the most logical way, because if not, you're kind of in this weird game that you have with a general contractor where you're going, well, my budget's this. And they're gonna start high, and then you're gonna start low, and you do this meet in the middle thing, but then you get bled to death with change orders. Because it was about just making it all fit inside this scope that was just not real in the beginning. So this will give you a much better breakdown. Now, if you go through the budget, then we're gonna break down to how did we come up with that value of $699. So we're always gonna provide you with comparables, all within a close quarter-mile comp, if not even tighter in certain areas of Seattle. If we're out in the sticks of Snohomish, we might go a mile out. We'll always break that down for you. And then you're able to click on all the links of the properties that we're saying, hey, just sold, so you can see what needs to be done there. And then once you're all done, hopefully it looks a little something like this. So this property, the reason I like to point this one out is this client actually lives in Ecuador. She has a general contractor here, Megan, or one of her listing brokers, goes and meets the guy every 3 to 4 weeks out there, and he's running the project. She runs them on Zoom and over phone calls with the guy, but then Megan picks all the design for her. So she keeps it very hands off. She lives in a really cool beach house in Ecuador. I really want to see it. But as you can see, it turned out great. So the house got re-sided, got all new windows in it, new flooring, things got opened up. And the client didn't have to pick any of this. And some of you guys might like picking all the stuff, and that's fine. Like, pick out, but you don't have to if you don't need to, or if you don't want to. Okay, then what happened? So the client paid $410,000 for this. They put $130,000 into it, and our value was $699 to $720, and it ended up selling for $800,000. And so, which ended up being a $71,000 net profit, or a 45% cash on cash return. Now, one of the reasons that we point out these deals in that one is because these are the target numbers that we're going for. So in any type of market, depending on what's going in the market, we set at our company, we know like what things are transacting at, where they should be to be buys. And so like we set the cash on cash return. And so all these deals that we're going to go over are kind of if you sign up with us, you're going to be seeing numbers just like this come to you. So we spend a ton of time kind of scrubbing through things. So here was a deal that we just sold in Shoreline not too long ago. They paid $585. They put 85 in, sold it for $850. Mukilteo, this house was absolutely hammered. It was only 750 square feet. They paid $780 for it. They put 105 into it and sold it for $650. There's one in Ravenna where they paid $850 for it, put $250 into the renovation, sold it for $1.4 and change. And then an Everett renovation, this one was really hammered too. They paid $200,000 for it. They put 130 into it and sold it for $550. So those were kind of bigger fixers. So depending on the size of project, the bigger the margin. If it's really, really cosmetic, it's going to be a smaller margin deal. The more beat up it is and the more work you have to do, the bigger the profit's going to be. And so that's usually the general rule of thumb. We're typically shooting for a 15 to 16% return, cash on cash return, without leverage stacked in. So it's going to, once you factor in leverage, it's going to end up being about 35 to 38% return is usually what we're going to be bringing out to you guys. That's kind of that is our target. If it's a really big project, it might go up to like 40, 45% cash on cash return because it's going to take longer. So your return should be higher. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions before we go into the buy and hold section on the fix and flip?
No, you guys are super detailed.
We try to be. We try to be. It's that's one thing I've learned. If you're not detailed in this business, you can get just killed.
Yeah.
So I've definitely had my bad stories to go along with that. So now that we talk about fix and flip, we're gonna talk about long-term wealth too. Does anyone own? I know you have property, rental property. Does anyone else own rental property?
I do. I in Ohio, I turned it into a sober house. So,
Oh, cool.
And it's being rented by the bed. So
What are they paying? Like $500 a door?
$450 per bed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Cash flowing pretty good.
yeah, it's I would have never thought to do that because the house it's a 6-bedroom, 4-bath. So we're on again, off again with between 10 and 11 tenants at a time. Usually we've never like kept it at 12 for long enough because something
Someone falls off the wagon.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah.
Cause we're like right around the corner from the liquor.
It's full for a short run.
And if they don't have, what do you call it, case management that is, efficient and does their job properly, that's when that happens. But we've still managed to keep it majority full. And, it's been working out so far. We opened it in October.
Oh, cool.
So it's been going good, no majors, and I got my person on ground over there coming every week, doing, just kind of checking out, making sure plumbing's good, everything's good, because you just never know.
Yeah.
So they have to come a little bit more often than a normal situation would call for, so, but it's working out so far, so good, so.
What'd you pay for it?
The house, 89.9.
That cash flow is good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that's good. That's a pencil.
Yeah.
So, and then, we were gonna, refi, but when we were like, cause we don't know what we were gonna get into when we got over here. Cause we just moved here literally August of last year. So, I'd lived here before, my stepdad was stationed here, so.
Yeah.
But I came back cause so over Ohio at this point, so. And we picked the spot and I said, hey, let's just go. So we packed up and moved here. Crazy, but it works because we have family here too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, I don't know if we're gonna find you that good at cash flow,
No.
$89,000, $5,000 a month, but it's that is the great. I hear that all the time though. You can't buy in Seattle. You can't get cash flow in Seattle. That is such a fallacy. The reason I can say that is we have nearly 1,000 doors in our portfolio. We cash flow at over 10%. So you can definitely do it in the Seattle market. It takes a little bit of work, right? And that's actually why fix and flip is such a great skill set to have, is because if you know how to renovate things, you can really do well in this market. I mean, we built our portfolio all started with 6 homes. And then they were value add. We got them fixed up. We kept them for a while, got the equity position, 1031 them out. Did it again, 1031 it again. And it was just I don't even know if we've really gotten any cash flow for the last 12. We're just trading, right? Because we're trying to get to this end goal of we're trying to get to 3,000 doors locally. It's going to give us this much cash flow. And I'm going to put all the cash flow aside for now until I get to that amount. Because once I hit there, then I've got to work as much. And so the good thing about our market is, the Midwest markets are great for cash flow. They definitely can be. The negative thing is your cash flow can get eaten up by maintenance costs pretty quickly out there.
Pipes, just weather, just gosh, it can.
Tenants can be a little rougher.
Our first house was just the foundation, or we had a leak on the western side of the foundation, and just that pinched a lot because it did some internal damage as well as, because they had to retrench it and do the whole thing, and that was so horrible.
Yeah, and that stuff, if you're making, you're making even $4 or $5 grand a year on a house, which is probably good money for that. All of a sudden your roof blows out, your cash flow's gone for the year, right? And so the good thing about our market is you're not gonna get the same cash flow, but you're gonna get these equity positions that can change your whole trajectory in life. Because you're usually not gonna pick up a $200,000 equity position in Ohio or Mississippi, right? And so you can definitely cash flow in this market. The things that we sell as far as cash flow. So at our brokerage, we only sell stuff that we do. We will not try to sell you guys anything that I have not personally done myself. That's really important, because if we can't show you how to execute on something, we don't sell it. And so the things that we are very well versed in is single family burr properties, high position, high equity positions, big margin deals, just traditional single family rentals. We sold Blackstone probably 1,000 homes over the last 15 years. So we know how to analyze, underwrite rental properties. We do a lot of multifamily. We own a lot. We have a lot of rooming houses in the Seattle market. I think we have over 150 doors just rooming houses in, whether it's for nurses or students,
Mm-hmm.
commercial vacation rentals. I have a little bit of a background in. I'm actually looking at buying another one in Palm Springs right now. And then syndications. If you don't want to do all the hard work, you can invest with us. We buy apartment buildings. We just closed a 60 unit down Federal Way, another 50 unit up in Everett, where investors just put in money with us and we run the whole project for them. And so if you are accredited, you want to talk about that more, I'll have my own conversation with you, because we, just like you're interviewing us, we're interviewing you, because it's kind of a small, tight knit group. But that is an option if you don't want to be a landlord yourself. So why holdings over flipping? So flipping is great for high returns, right? You can make 40, 50% of your return, sometimes 100% of your money in a 6-month period. Problem is you get taxed a lot. You know, you are paying 40% tax on that. So, you know, if you're making 100 grand, you're really only walking with 60. Or if you're making 50, you're only really walking with, 30. So holdings is for wealth, flipping is for income. We did flipping to get more cash to buy more holds. That was our whole purpose of even flipping properties back in the day. The holdings have changed everything for us though. The amount of equity that we've acquired over the years, the cash flow position that we do have right now, and that stuff that is what's going to make us be able to be financially free in 10, 15 years, not the flipping. And so what I always tell people is you want to balance it all out, right? So like for us, for flippers and developers, we take 25 to 30% of all of our net profits. That's net after taxes, and we put them right back in the holdings every year. And we're constantly buying holdings with our flip gains. And so you always want to be looking at building out that portfolio. This is where the wealth's made. So the good thing about holdings is when you sell it, you don't pay the short-term gain, you're paying a long-term gain. So you're saving about 15% on your taxes when you do sell it. You're also getting a tax benefit for the depreciation. And then if you do buy multifamily, the cost segregation, which is basically, does everyone know what cost segregation is?
I need a little refresher.
It's so basically you have a normal depreciation schedule, and cost segregation breaks down your property to where you can hyper accelerate your depreciation.
Yes.
And so a lot of people do that. Like even at the end of my year, I'm looking for last minute syndication of property I can buy just to drive down my tax basis. Because it's gonna get, like if I put $200,000 in a syndication deal at the end of the year, I'm typically gonna get $100,000 back on my taxes. And so it's really like I'd rather just put it in a hold than give it. And so this allows you to get bonus depreciation and depreciate faster, which drives down your income. And so if you think you have a high income year, it's to depreciate it down as fast as possible, bring down your bracket. So it's a great hedge against inflation. It's great for passive income, right? We all don't want to be active for the rest of our lives. And then this is how you're going to get to financial freedom. So other additional resources that our office is very well versed in: 1031 exchanges, self-directed IRAs, and 401ks. If you guys have any of those, we can get you set up with a self-directed to where you can buy holds or you can flips in them. Opportunity zones, the tax benefit. And then if you're looking for a specific type of product, because buying holds a little bit different, sometimes you want to own something specifically. We have a huge database of off-market sellers because we have an off-market business. We send mailers, cold call all day long, and we know what sellers will sell for. So we might have some shadow inventory for you to look at as well. We're really well versed in leverage and structure. That is key to buy and hold. And then also, it's not really a discount anymore. So
really? It says it right there.
Well, we negotiated a bunch of really good deals for our clients with property managers, and then our clients kept asking us just to do it. And so we finally started becoming a property manager. We've only ever self-managed our own properties. Right. And so for the past year and a half now, we've been managing for, our rate is good. It's a 7%, which is pretty low for the market. We try to keep it as thrifty as possible. It was at 5, but inflation kind of killed that for us. And so if you are interested in property management, it's 7%, kind of standard fees. And so when we're selling you properties, again, we want you to do well as an investor. So we're going to keep that cost down as low as possible. So our department, kind of how our teams are set up, it's myself and Jen Hafner. She's our multifamily specialist. She'll be working with you on buying any kind of buy and hold multifamily. She works on our on and off market. She's going to get you qualified with financing and then help get you going. Our short-term financing partner for your BRRRR style properties is Intrust funding. With BRRRR homes, you're typically getting stuff that needs a lot of work. It's not financeable, which is good. That's why we're getting the big discount to where you can lever it up. But you need to take it down with hard money with the construction component at that point, and then the permanent financing partner. And we have 4 different mortgage brokers that will refer you out. The reason we have 4 is they all have different specialties in it. We get 0 referral fees out of any of these people. It's just because they're used to working with investors that are, self-employed, or they understand when you buy a property well below market and you're refinancing it pretty quickly, why there's a value increase. And so these are guys that just really understand your business. And then if you do have any properties that you want to look at 1031 exchanging, again, you guys, 1031 exchanging is how me and Will changed our whole portfolio. It is the best mechanism to grow rapidly. Let us know. We can sit down and go over your. Did we skip? Ooh, we are going the wrong way. Sorry, guys. And so if you do have any property you want us to take a look at, we can look at those metrics and what it would look like 1031 exchanging. So why do you want to keep properties? Well, because rents grew as fast as appreciation. So King County, Pierce County, and that's a typo on Snohomish County. They were all up.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, that's a little off. That 5's supposed to be a 2. They're all up over 20%. And then rents, you guys, right now, rents have stayed pretty strong. I've seen a little bit nationwide slow down. It hasn't been, like, we're keeping our stuff really full. We run at 98% full right now. Or it's like 97.4% full. And so our tenants aren't leaving. The stuff that I have seen come down is if you're buying like the super luxury, like the condos that are $5-6 grand a month, that came down to 4,500. Everything else has stayed pretty tight, and the rents have not dropped. The reason being is metrics that we use a lot is the cost to rent ratio. We're still well out of whack. Where cost to rent is still way lower than cost to own. And so that's what's going to usually bring your big sways or your swings in whether your rents are going to drop or not. So that's something that we're always looking at. In Kingstone and Pierce, it's pretty leveled out still. And so we haven't seen a lot of rents moving whatsoever. And also what we've also seen in the last like 60 days is the housing market's gone way busier. I mean, the amount of people looking at housing again is almost as much as it was 12 months ago. And so it's kind of leveling out. If that stays true and people are buying right now with the high rates, rents are going to go up even further because the cost to rent ratio will be really out of whack at that point. And so based on the next quarter, that's going to really dictate if rents are going to keep pumping up. And then one other stat we like to point out is average home appreciation is over the last 20 years is 3.53%. The reason we like to point that out is when we're looking at a rental property for you, we're going to show you what it looks like in 5 years, 10 years, 15 and 20. And so that's the appreciation rate that we use. The last 3 years have not been normal appreciation. That's not normal at all. So we like to use just traditional approaches. So our process, there's kind of 2 things that we do with clients. So one is for acquisition. So the first thing we want to do, if it's a buy and hold property, we really do want to get you guys coming in to meet with us one-on-one, because buy and hold is different than fix and flip. You're going to keep that for a little bit. So we want to know what's your hot buttons, what's important to you, what do you want to own. We want to look at your portfolio if you own anything right now. Is there any lost leaders in there that you just need to get rid of, or is your portfolio looking good at that point? We're going to put together a 5-year or 10-year action plan for you, get you pre-qualified and start looking for properties. If you have a property that you're thinking about selling because you're like, this is a headache house for me, it's got a lot of equity. We met with a client recently, had 38 homes in Tacoma. He bought them all super cheap, but none of them were cash flowing because of all the maintenance and everything. He's like, I have all this equity and I don't make any money on these properties. And he was buying them for like 100, 120, 130 grand. Back in like 2014 to 15. So we're setting up 1031 exchanges for the whole thing. He's like, I want out, even though he's got $2 million in equity and he's not making any cash flow on it because of the maintenance costs and the evictions and all these things, right? And so now he can trade that, go into a better neighborhood and actually get the cash flow and pay no tax gain. So we're gonna look through your portfolio, see if we can upgrade you, get it set up with a 1031 exchange, get your properties listed, and then find you that next deal to reload into. For people, who in this room does not own property? Okay. Max right there. We gotta get you set up, Max.
I was going to say, that's
Uh,
outrageous.
So you guys, there's a trick, right? So the first time home buying program or the house hacking program really does work. You can buy a property with 3% down, or sometimes 0 down, depending on what your income is and a couple other little. It's the best way to get you, even if you don't want to own a house right now, go buy a rental property and live in it for a month and then move out. It's to buy a property that will cash flow with that little money down will be a through the roof cash on cash return. And so if you guys have questions about this, basically you can reset this every 12 to 24 months to where you can buy a property, move into it for a year. What lots of clients do this 6-7 times over. They live in it for a year, they get their low down payment, they get a lower rate too. It's usually about a point and a half lower than what an investor's gonna pay, so they can make a property cash flow better. They move out, 12 months again, they're buying it again for 3% down. It is the best way to acquire property because you don't leave your liquidity in the deal. So if you have any questions on that too, just on your form, write house hacking on there. We'll call and reach out to you on it. But it's a no-brainer for people to use this process. I'm going the wrong way again. Oh, I'm just all over the place. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. All right, so the types of properties that we're gonna talk about today. So there's 2 types of rentals that we sell. There's one which we call the traditional approach. That's where we're gonna find you guys a property. They, a lot of our clients come in, they have stock options, they wanna sell off some of their stocks, get it into different types of assets at that point. They're not feeling too good about the stock market. And so, but a lot of those type of client, they don't want to do a bunch of heavy lifting. They want to find a good deal where they can buy it 10% off market, needs carpet and paint, they can get a renter in there, they're buying it below market, and they're gonna get minimal cash flow at that point. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's their traditional approach, where we're gonna find a property, do a little bit of TI, get you the rent metrics behind it. It's a very quick turn. Typically, you're gonna be buying that, cleaning it up, and having a renter in there within a 30 to 60 day window. You're gonna start getting cash flow right away. Typically, when we're looking at these deals, is we're gonna look at things on performa, like what was it renting for, what's market rent, was it mismanaged, does it just need a little bit of TLC just to get your rents up, to get your income to where it needs to be. Typically, on a 2 to 4 unit building, though, you're gonna leave 10 to 20% in those deals because the margins and the discounts aren't as great as you're gonna get on a major fixer. If you're buying it at 90%, and then you're putting 20% down, you can still refinance that in 6 months and get 10% of your money back, but you're gonna have to leave some in there because your loan to value is not like there without the growth. And then on 5 units and above, you're gonna leave 20 to 40% down. And the reason we say 40% is if anybody wants to buy multifamily in the east side, the math doesn't work very good, you're gonna have to put a lot of money down. I call it rich guy property. So if you wanna own rental property in the east side, doesn't cash flow very well whatsoever. If it doesn't cash flow well, the bank wants more money down. Even if you're buying it with a good loan to value, the debt ratio coverage doesn't work. But typically you're gonna leave about 20% in a building with this. This is where we're gonna find you like a 4 to 6 unit. You're gonna come in, the tenants are maybe paying under market rent. You're gonna put 20% down. We're gonna clean up the units. We're gonna raise the rents 10, 20% and get it to the performance metrics. But the money's gonna be trapped there for probably at least 1 to 2 years. The next approach we do is for people that want to hang on to the liquidity, right? Like when we got going in 2009 and 10 again to start rebuilding, we didn't have a lot of liquidity. So we were targeting the most beat up, messed up homes that we could find, buy them, renovate them for 6 to 9 months, get no cash flow. But then because we had done that, the value had increased so much, then we could refinance and get all of our cash back out, cash flow, take that money, go buy another deal. And so that's the value add approach of the BRRRR approach. This is where we're going to be going over performa metrics, leverage position, like how much of a discount are you getting after it's been fixed up, what's your purchase price, what's your rehab, what's your new value. That's going to dictate what your leverage position is. The cost of improvements are very important. And then this is always going to be a 2-step loan because it's a heavy fixture. You're going to set it up with a construction hard money loan, get it renovated, then refinance into permanent financing. Whereas this one, you're using permanent financing all the way. The big benefit of this, the BRRRR, the value add, is going to be you're going to get a much better leverage position. because you're already buying it 25% below market value at that point. You have to do all the work to increase the value, but there's also a lot less competition on these, and you can buy them so much cheaper. So by the time you fix them, you're gonna have more equity. The negative part that a lot of people don't talk about in the BRRRR is you don't see any cash flow for 6 to 9 months. Not only that, you're paying for this house for 6 to 9 months. Because if you're buying it on hard money, you gotta service that debt. And so it's really like, it's kind of a cash suck for the first year. And then once it's stabilized, it allows you to grow from there. And so that is the one thing you always want to be thinking about, is not burning up all your liquidity. So besides those two things, the syndicating that we had talked to, if you want to invest with us because you don't want to do either of them, one thing, you got to be accredited. It is true passive income. We find the deal. We do the full renovation. We line up the debt. We do the full renovation. We stabilize it. We do the property management. And typically you're going to be getting a pref return and then a fixed IRR or an IRR, anticipated IRR in a 3 to 5 year window at that point. And so it's more for people that just don't want to have to do the work. So let's dig into a single family house that we just sold recently. So this is a property that we sold in Burien, Washington. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath property, built in 1943. The big bonus to this property was it was on a 9,900 square foot lot. Okay? And in Burien or in Seattle, what we've seen is Washington State alone just banned single family. Did everyone see that on this single family zoning? Basically, you can build whatever you want on any lot going forward because they want density. And so a property like this, when I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, this has long-term play. I got a 9,900 square foot lot that I could add 2 additional units on later. Might not make sense in today's market, but I know in 4 or 5 years it's going to make a ton of sense. And so these are properties I like to buy on the buy and hold. I want stuff with additional kickers on it. Thing that has a little bit of extra lot, because that's where you pick up that extra $250,000 on the next market pop. You know, because this lot, we saw these lots, once that zoning got changed 2 years ago, they doubled in value. And once density gets more and more aggressive, and people more and more, this is gonna be worth more and more money. And so for me, when I'm looking at buying holds, I always want to land make that in. So it's on a 9,900 square foot lot. This is a 700 square foot house built in 1943, cosmetic fixer. So let's look at why we thought this was a good rental when we analyzed this for highest and best use. If you bought this for $350,000, that's what the client bought it for. We anticipated that they were gonna have to put $65,000 in to get a $499 value. The $65,000 is because we need to add a second bath in there. That's gonna give us an estimated profit of $10,000 to $15,000 by the time you're said and done. Which is gonna be, you're gonna have to come up with $83,000 to make 15. That's a 12.5% return cash on cash. Remember what I was talking about earlier, we target 15. So for us, that's a no buy on the fix and flip. We need to buy this at $330. Even though $350 in that area is a really cheap price for that house. But even though it was cheap, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to flip it. But as a rental, let's look at that. So the client paid $350 for it. They only had to put $35 in to get a value of $475 because we didn't have to add the second bathroom. It gave us enough updates to get the new appraised value at $475, which was going to give us, when the client bought it, they're paying $350, put $35 in. That's going to give them nearly $100,000 equity position on this property. So that's gunpowder later that this person can trade that for down the road. And so not only am I looking at cash flow on rental properties, I'm going, what am I putting inside my portfolio that I can tap into later and trade it out for something else? If I have an additional $100,000, that's typically going to be able to make it to where I'm going to be able to trade this property for like a 4 unit in a year. Because that's $100,000 more I can 1031 exchange to put down on the next property. And that makes a huge difference in your purchasing power. And not only that, it's $100,000 that didn't come from my bank account. It came back to me, right? I just had to sit on this thing for a year. And so just like the fix and flip property, you'll get pictures of the whole thing. As you can see, it wasn't that bad of shape. They had like a newer door on it. The paint was obviously weathered out. Nice big flat backyard. That's where the daddies will go. And it was just kind of a rental, worn down house. Yeah, not too bad. And then after you go through the photos, this is what a performer looks like with the buy and hold. So again, similar setup where we have a $350,000 purchase price. We have a rehab right here. We have our new appraised value. And then these two boxes right here show months of refi, months of rehab. Well, the reason why this is important is because when you're buying these properties, you're paying cash. That's hard money. So you're going to be paying 12% interest as you're stabilizing this property. We need to account for that cash in the deal for what you're going to have to leave in there. So this allows us for 4 months of hard money payments. You're going to be able to buy this property, get it all cleaned up, get it refinanced, and then that gives you a buffer. Then we had our rents at $28.50 a month, which we'll go into how we came up with that number. Then we're going to back out the expenses for whatever the property is. If it's multifamily, we're usually going to run our expenses at like 20 to 30%, depending on the size of the building. If it's a condo, we're going to run it at the HOA dues minus regular expenses. If it's a house, we run property taxes, hazard insurance, and that's it. Because our tenants do all their own maintenance, all their utilities come out of there. We do not put in property management in our performas. You just need to tell us to add it in because half of our clients self-manage, half don't. Or you can just add it in there later too. So like our 7%, you can put right in there. It'll show you the cash flow. So if the client's paying $350,000, they're putting in the rehab. They're picking up about $100,000 equity position. Their rents are at $28.50 a month. What is that mathematically going to look like? Down here is what we call our key figures in our spreadsheet. This is going to calculate your acquisition financing when you take it down with hard money, all your cost here, the cash you got to come up with. This is your cash out of pocket during your rehab time that you got no tenant in, that you're in your hard money. Then this is going to be your refinance information, which is going to tell you how much money you're going to leave in. So then this is going to take, in this portion here, we ran our payment at a 7% interest rate based on this loan balance, which this loan balance is at $335,000. How we came up with $335,000 is we know that you can get a loan for 70% of the new appraised value. So once you rehab that house, you can increase the value. They're going to allow you to lever that 70%. That's going to dictate how much money you have to leave in the deal. So it's value minus rehab costs minus debt costs minus purchase price. Value times 70% minus rehab costs, purchase price, debt costs. That's going to dictate how much money's in the deal. And that's what this does. So after the client was all the way done, they had to come up with $93,000 to buy the deal. When they were done refinancing and getting it stabilized, they left $53,000 in, so they got nearly 50% of their money back. And this client's leaving in $53,000 in this deal at this time. After cash flow, or after all debt service and expenses, this person was going to make $200 a month, $2,300 a year, which on a cash-on-cash return ends up being cash-on-cash return is 4%. That's not that great. Like, I don't get excited about 4% unless I'm looking at the deal so that's the biggest mistake people can do. That's a 4% deal. I don't want that. But let's look at this deal a little bit closer. So, right, $28.50 in rents. They're leaving $53,000 in the deal. They're making $200 a month. It's a 7.8 cap. No one cares about cap rates on houses anyways. We just throw it in because we're supposed to. Cash on cash returns at 4%. But the equity position is $75,000 to $100,000 on this property. Right? So I'm leaving in 50 to make 75 to 100 plus a return of 4%, which I don't like. But one thing I do know is rates are temporary, and that is going to change. We're going to look at that in a second. So the core numbers on this, 4%, $100,000 equity position. One thing we got to jump into too is how do we come up with the target rent? So we use two different things. We use the Northwest MLS. So what are they leasing for right off the MLS? And then we use rental meter, and then we blend the two average in there. So for this house, we had rents target at $28.50, 75th percentile was at $29.45. The average was at $2,700. But then also we had rent comps, and one of them was from someone in our office. So we felt really good about our rent comp, and it was for $2,900 at that point. So we had ours at $28.50. But so going back to my point of why a 4% cash deal, today that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But what does this look like once rates settle down? So I call this the long-term burr right now. For the last the easier burrs, the last 3 years, for us to get a burr where we buy a property, make good cash, we'll get most of our cash back out, we had to buy the biggest piles of junk there was. And we're gonna have to rehab these things like crazy
Mm.
just to get them into that position. Now, because of rates, it's spooked people where we can buy that clean house, put very little money into the deal, and then we just have to ride the rates out. And rates are anticipated to fall by the end of Q4, and they're already starting to come down right now. And so if we look at this, we were making $200 a month at a 7% interest rate, which is a 4% cash on cash return. That's garbage. But if rates go down to 5.5%, which they're supposed to by the end of the year, your now crap cash flow turns into a 12% return once you refinance that. So you go from making $200 a month to $650 a month. At a 5% rate, you're going to a 14% return, and at a 4.75, you're at a 15% cash on cash return. So once you buy that property and it refis out, once you refi it, you're going, because if my bare minimum that I'm targeting for cash flow after 12 months is 10%. So all I gotta do is buy this property, sit on it for the 12 months, wait for rates to fall, and all of a sudden I'm well past my 12%. In addition to, I left 50 grand in this property, which now I'm making 12%, I'm stoked about. That 50 grand is actually $100,000 in gunpowder now that I have. So, because if I left 50 grand in the deal and I'm picking up 100 in equity at that point, I have $150,000. That's going to allow me to buy a $700,000 to $800,000 property in 12 months and leave no more money in that deal, and usually take that cash flow and 2 and 3 exit at that point. And so it's not just about the cash flow; it's about what equity position you get. In addition to on that deal, that's zoned for 2 more houses down the road. So if I'm in 1 year, if I'm making 12% on my money and I'm land banking that in, that's a winner all the way around. And so don't just look at it with that holistic cash on cash deal. That's what the Midwest isn't going to get you.
Yeah.
Right? The equity positions that we're picking up, you can buy 2 properties.
Well, and the way that I'm renting it isn't typical. Usually you would get that 199 or 300 if everything goes well.
Yeah.
But because of the way that I'm renting it out now, that's the only reason why. If I had put a family in it instead of renting it by the bed as I did, I would still be getting the lower end of the cash on cash return.
Yeah, you put the right plan on it.
Yeah.
And it's all about putting the right plan on everything. So other recent cash flow deals we've sold recently. So we sold a 4-plex in Burien for 800 grand. It was a 10% return. They had to leave 310 in the deal though. So putting 310 in, they're making 10% on it. That was a 1031 exchange. We picked up 2 4-plexes side by side. There were 8 units. Paid 1.96 for it, which ended up being a 12% cash on cash return in Seattle. We did this off market deal on a Bothell duplex where they paid 462 for it. They left 73 in the deal, but it's a 16% cash on cash return. That was a good buy. And then, so one thing we like to point out is, your average traditional, we need to change this.
I was going to say, these are better than that.
We need to change this. I mean, savings accounts, you're getting 3 to 4% on right now.
Apple just launched one today that's 4.2.
Apple did?
Yeah.
So American Express had like 3.82. They sent me a little thing the other day.
What it should be, they charge like 24% for their money.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well, that's true.
CDs. Well, either way, so I gotta update those. Our cash on cash return, you guys, we target 13 to 18%, or leverage is 30 to 55% on short-term investments. That is, if it does not hit inside that window, we are not selling it. So that is what we're targeting. These are based on kind of annual numbers too. So, if you're doing your standard fix and flip, you're looking at like a 70% annual is kind of what we're targeting to keep the money working. And it should be, you guys, fix and flip's high risk. Shit goes wrong. It's just, that's the reality. It happens to me. I've been doing this for 18 years. I got stuff that I'm like, really, this just happened? Yeah. It's just the way it goes. So by being here, we're here to help you mitigate that risk. So it's, 30, 40%, but then you got a full team behind it. So what we're gonna do right now, next steps, guys, is after this, Intrust Funding is gonna talk real quick about the leverage hard money. Then all the brokers will be hanging out, answering any specific questions you guys have, and then we'll let you go. But before you guys leave, if you do want to move forward with getting deal flow, Once you complete the survey, you're gonna get a follow call from Max in the back there, just getting you kind of scheduled in. We're gonna schedule in for a 101, get you pre-qualified, and then get you looking for your next deal. So other things, if you guys want more free education, check us out on YouTube at Project RE or on our website at HeatonDainard.com. You guys, there's some really good free educational stuff on construction. There's a 4-part construction series on there. I would highly recommend. I spent a ton of time making that. It will walk you through construction, how to kind of negotiate things. But we're always trying to put out more and more free. Oh, that's that 4-part series. Free stuff. The more you guys know, the better it is for us as brokers as well. So we are going to get Intrust funding up. They're going to talk to you about leverage real quick, and then we will get this wrapped up for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
I'll be back.
This part's pretty quick, so. There's like a couple, or a little folder in the rows handing out, just kind of goes over a few things I'm talking about. Plus they threw in some little doodads. You guys need a fidget spinner or anything?
I've never known. I needed one, but maybe I do.
Does anybody have questions on hard money before I start? So it's gonna be like a 10-15 minute presentation. I do teach a class I just created actually. It's coming up on April 26th. It's a Wednesday. It's called Hard Money 201. So it's basically a more in-depth version, similar like what James just went through, but on hard money, different scenarios, how the process works, everything from our transaction team to our underwriter, how they look at files, closing, etc. So free class, we're doing it in person and on Zoom. I'll probably do it once a month as well.
Cool.
So again, some of this is going to be redundant a little bit, but so Will and James own Intrust as well. We have one other principal, which is Mark. We have kind of a full staff as well, sales team, accounting, operations, marketing. A little bit on hard money if you don't know. I know James talked about it for a while, but the main thing I always want to point out is, I guess a lot of people don't understand hard money. Hard money is essentially a commercial loan, so it's not a consumer loan. We can only lend on investment properties, so the purpose of the loan has to be for an investment. So like a fix and flip or a buy and hold. We had a lot of people coming saying they want to fix up their primary residence or not knowing what the true term means. But it can't be anything that you're going to live in. It can't be like a second vacation home. It's pretty cut and dry on that. Let's see here. So the biggest thing that we look at is we're always lending on what the future value is. So again, a lot of these properties you might come around if you're looking for a fix and flip might be able to be financed from a conventional bank. They might not be in too bad of a condition. The problem with the bank is they're going to always look at what is the value of the house right now, where we're looking at, okay, the house is this, but you're doing this to it, and the after repair value is this. So we're kind of looking at two different things. The other biggest thing is quick funding. We don't sell our loans off to anybody. We lend our own funds. So the decision time is as little as 48 hours to get something funded. So it's going to be just as fast as going against a cash buyer. So we are the primary hard money lender for Heaton Dainard. I'm sure James talked about that a lot, that we've kind of already pre-approved most of these deals. It's a quick process, but we do fund anybody's investment deals all the way throughout Western Washington and Eastern Washington. A couple little things here. So there are a lot of lenders out there. We call them kind of soft money lenders, medium money lenders. They are essentially brokers. So if you search hard money online, or has anybody worked with a hard money lender? Let's start with that. Okay. So there's a lot of lenders typically out of California, Texas, New York, and what they're doing is they're brokering a loan. So they're taking your application, they're meeting the criteria, and they're going to turn around and sell that loan off to a bank or a hedge fund. So typically they might offer a little bit lower interest rates, but they're going to put you through a lot of red tape. They're going to look at your debt to income. They're going to look at your tax returns, your pay stubs. They're going to need an appraisal on the property, pretty much like you're buying a house. So the process can take anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. So it's not very, very quick. Since interest rates have gone up, most of these other companies or the competition has kind of folded. They've gone away. They were able to basically borrow institutional money. So they were borrowing when the money was cheap and charged a difference on it. And as money went up, those companies kind of went away now. What we focus on is, I guess, our own experience. Everybody, from our underwriter to Will to James, who are looking at these deals, have the actual experience of being an investor themselves and doing these projects day in and day out. So we're not relying on data models basically to underwrite. We're using our own experience on these processes. So we have kind of two steps. There's one to pre-qualify you, and then another step to pre-qualify your property. So unlike a bank or these other lenders I was talking about, we need three things for you to be pre-qualified. You know, who's gonna be on the loan, basic information. So your name, your email, your phone number, and mailing address. We need to see what we call proof of liquidity. That's basically either a bank statement, combination of bank statements, it could be a HELOC, it could be some stocks you're willing to sell. We don't have to have it all in one account. It can be spread over multiple accounts. We're verifying you have X amount of money that you're saying is gonna be used for said project. So we don't look into your debt to income ratio. We don't know what your occupation is. So we don't know what your overhead is. We're saying you have $150,000 you're showing. This is dedicated to this project. So it's a very simple application, or there's not even an application, it's a very simple process. The last thing is a credit report. So we're not looking through a credit report to look at how many trade lines you have, your history. We are looking for a score. We typically want to see a 650 score or higher. We came up with that in the last 13 years doing this. Typically people that have a 650 or higher that have been borrowers of ours make their payments on time. We will do a loan case by case for lower scores because situations do come up, but we do require a background check at that point. So once those things are on file, you are pre-qualified with Intrust. So say you're not buying a Heaton Dainard deal and you're just an investor. Once you have this on file, you can text me or someone from my team, call me 7 days a week, and we can write you a pre-approval letter to go after a property. So the reason why pre-approval is important is if you're submitting an offer and you have a pre-approval from me saying this is an unconditional approval, no appraisal required, can close in as little as 72 hours, it's going to increase the odds of your offer being accepted. That kind of makes sense rather than just firing out offers out there. So we're able to do that 7 days a week. Now, if you want to pre-qualify a property, like if you want to submit something for a loan, we do not require an appraisal. We do not require a BPO, which is a broker's price opinion, kind of a mini appraisal. We need to see 15 photos of what this property looks like as is today. So it's a couple of the exterior and mostly of the interior, giving us basically, we've never been there, we're not going to drive the property. What does the property look like right now? So I always tell people, if you're looking at real estate, you're walking through, make sure to grab pictures. If something is listed online, we can go on the MLS and find the pictures. The more you provide, the better. We need to know roughly a scope of work. When you submit a loan to us, we actually have a template. It breaks down labor and material costs. But at the beginning, you say, Kyle, I want to make an offer for $450,000 on, 123 4th Street, Bellevue. Here's my photos. I'm thinking $110,000 rehab. I'm gonna need a 7 month loan. I want to borrow the rehab or I don't. We can basically have that underwritten for you anytime. So this is kind of the process right here. Basically pre-qualify yourself or at the same time pre-qualify yourself in a property. We can write you a pre-approval letter. Some people come to us after the property's already under contract, so we're doing this all at once. That kind of makes sense with the flow. So we try to get this all done in as little as 48 hours. It kind of just depends on how quickly you can get me documents. So we got a loan today, this morning that we started, and it kind of got piecemealed together. But at the end of the day, needs to close Friday. So that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at on a lot of these. This is what basically happens after a file is underwritten. So at any point, we will do a complimentary deal and analysis for you. So if you say, I'm looking at this property, but I'm not really sure, here's my numbers, what do you guys think, or what will you lend on this? Our underwriter will go in and basically look at the property, look at the rehab budget, pull comps. So you'll basically end up with the property details, which is like the tax records. They'll put together a flip calculator based off the information you're giving us, plus our ARV, and it'll give you basically the comps that we're seeing out there. We're always going to be a little bit more on the conservative end. So we had one today that, he said, I'm thinking 640. We came in at 625 ARV. Not that you can't sell the house for more, but that's the comfortable based on the comps that we're seeing that we'll lend up to on that property.
Yeah.
So again, we'll do this for free for whatever deal you're looking at. There's nothing saying you have to work with us. You can even ask us to do this before you put an offer in. The only thing I tell people is that if we have stuff in underwriting that's under contract that has a tight closing window, that will take priority over something that is complimentary. We try to get through it all, but again, we have to stay in time with the closings. I don't know if anybody ever looks at deals with wholesalers. A lot of lenders don't like assignment fees. Do you guys know what assignment fee is? Does anybody not know what assignment fee is?
I don't know.
Okay, so I use Monroe, my coworker back there. Monroe has, I just bought, we'll use you for example. I'm going to you own a house, and I'm gonna offer to buy it for $400,000 from you. We agree to that. I go to Monroe, who's the investor, I'm selling it to him for $430,000. So I'm putting a $30,000 assignment fee on there. So if Monroe takes that and needs a hard money lender to close that, some lenders will say, okay, we'll do the loan for $400 minus your down payment, but you have to pay the assignment fee out of pocket at closing. So Intrust will fund 100% of assignment fees. I mean, I've seen James have some that are $175,000, $350,000 assignment fees to $6,000. So we'll wrap that into the loan. So basically, you're not having to come out of pocket to pay the wholesaler and then pay more for the loan. So we offer two different types of loans. We have a standard loan and a rehab loan. Our standard loan is acquisition only. It's not used as much. If you guys look back to all the performers you saw that had the three different rows, that's basically what we're looking at. The standard loan was left, rehab loan was middle, and then cash would be on the right. So standard loan is saying, okay, let's say we need to have a 20% down payment. You're buying a $400,000 house. We require $80,000 down. We fund the other $320,000. You pay for rehab out of pocket. Not very many people do that. I have some people that are contractors and flippers themselves, so they're only paying for materials, not labor. They might be sitting on a lot of money and they want to leverage it between cash and not buying cash, but most people do use the rehab loan. The rehab loan, we do one loan, so we don't do any second position loans. So we do the $400 purchase price plus the $80,000 rehab into one loan for $480. And then I'm going to explain how those funds are given to you in a second. All of our loans have two automatic extensions built in. So we do terms 5 months, 7 months, 9 months, 12 months, no prepayment penalty. So again, hard money, just reminds you, is interest only, short term. So you want to get in and out. Things change, the market shifted on us, houses sat longer selling. We have these built in. So most lenders, basically, if you come up on your maturity date, if you do a 6-month loan or a 7-month loan, it's up to the ownership of that company to say they might extend your loan or not. We have 2 45-day extensions built in. As long as you are current on your payments, we will extend your loan twice with a possible third time. That is up to the owner's decision. So those are kind of given to you already. So where the down payment comes from. So we lend up to 70% of the after repair value. So a lot of people, we do as little as 15% down. It might be anywhere between 20 and 25% down, and I'll explain that in a second. So Western Washington, our lowest is 15% down. Eastern Washington, our lowest is 20% down. It's further from us. Will and James themselves do not invest in Eastern Washington, so it's out of their comfort zones. They want a little bit more skin in the game. So basically, the down payment is derived from how good of a deal you're buying. If the margins make sense, that 15% down, the loan divided by the after repair value is below 70%, we'll do it for 15% down. If the numbers are tighter, we might need more. There are some situations, this is where it gets confusing. If you are buying, I don't know, I have some Microsoft clients that buy a bunch of Airbnbs. They're mostly turnkey, but they want to, one, secure them quickly and get them taken down. Again, there's multiple offers on stuff again because there's such limited inventory. These houses are turnkey, ready to go. Problem is, we'll lend up to 70% of the after repair value. If you're buying a turnkey house and using hard money, you're gonna be putting closer to 25 to 30% down. It sounds backwards that we'll lend with 15% down on the most beat up thing you'll see, and you have a pristine house, we want more down. But there's no room for us to add value to that house. What you're buying it for is what it's worth. So those are like some of the weird situations that we might ask for a higher down payment. We don't do any vacant land lending, and we don't do brand new construction. There are some situations we'll do some DADUs if you're buying the house and doing that on the same lot. Those are kind of case by case. So a couple key things on interest. One, we don't require an appraisal. 2, we combine all of your fees into the loan. So most lenders out there want their fees up front at closing. So We charge between 2 and 4% origination fee depending on how long of a loan you want. So I'm giving an example here that this person has a $400,000 loan. They're putting 20% down, which is $500,000 loan, 20% down, which is $100K, leaves them with a $400,000 loan. 2 points origination would cost $8,000. So most lenders are gonna want, on top of that $100,000, they're gonna want you to pay the $8,000 at closing so they collect their fees. We simply combine everything into a loan. So the only money you're putting at escrow the only money you're putting as a down payment via escrow at closing actually goes to the equity position in your house. So we simply take the 400,000, we add the 8 in, so you have a $408,000 loan with us. So we're trying to leverage the amount of money out of your pocket. Now, again, there will be title, escrow, and insurance that has to be paid outside of closing, whatever those fees are. Let's skip over this little part. You guys have seen a million of these. They're going to speed up a little bit. So draws. So in the world of hard money, when you borrow rehab funds, they are dispersed in what we call draws. Everybody does a little bit different. We're probably the most unique in why most people use us. So let me see what, I think it's 125,000 example. It's coming up next. Let me quickly look at what it is. 125,000. So say you're doing a loan, you want to borrow $125,000. Say your loan, they were Monday today. Your loan closes today. Tomorrow we will give you up to $25,000 to $30,000 of that 125 wired to you to start the project. So you haven't even stepped foot in the house, you haven't done anything. We're giving that money out of the gate. The way that most lenders work is you have to spend the first 20 to 25%, have a professional inspection or go through their process and be reimbursed. So we're forward motioning that money to get you off the ground. It also helps offset if you had a $100,000 down payment you deposited yesterday at escrow, we're giving you back $25,000 the next day to start the project. So it leverages how much money you have out of your pocket. So we don't require any inspections. So what I mean by that is when you need to have draw funds, you don't have to pay a home inspector, wait 7 to 10 days for them to come out. Does that kind of make sense? Does anybody have to go through that process? So the average time frame is about 7 to 10 days for somebody to inspect your house. You're going to either call the hard money lender, they're going to have a go-to and say, schedule with this person. Everybody has a couple different ways they do it. You're going to have to pay anywhere from $300 to $500, wait for them to come out. All they're doing is validating the work you said is complete. Problem is they can say, sorry, Kyle, this isn't good enough. You know, rebook me, pay again, and have me come out next week when you're done with X, Y, and Z. Time is consuming. So let's just say hypothetically in a rehab scenario of $125,000, you'd want 5 draws. So let's say each time you had to call an inspector and wait, it was 10 days. So that's 50 days of interest you were paying just waiting to get your rehab funds. So with us, it's very simple. We give you the first draw at closing. So we give you up to $25,000. When you're done with that, you do not have to have an inspection. We give you a dedicated portfolio manager. His name is Sean. He's been doing this for 30 years. He has a link. You're going to simply take 15 pictures on your phone. And what you're doing in lieu of inspection is you're basically saying, here's my progress that I've completed with the first $25,000 or whatever money that we gave you. Now that might be progress photos of work complete. It might be, here's a receipt of all these materials I bought. They might not be on site yet, but here's a receipt. Or here's a picture of what I paid my contractor so far. So there's different ways to show your progress. You send that to him, and then basically he wires you the next $25,000. So we kind of jump into the thing here. We can do as little as 3 draws if you want to have more money, but spread out the frequency you get it, or we can do as many draws as you want. I always tell my borrowers that I like to at least have a 4-draw scenario, so you're only going 25% at a time, compared to if you do 3 draws, first draw you get the day after closing. The next one, you have to get 66% complete before you're eligible, so you're really extending that time period. So there's nothing, we don't charge for wire transfers or anything, so you can request $5,000 every 3 days, however you want to set it up. But basically it's customized. The further you get through the project, the more money that keeps coming. Does that kind of make sense, everybody? Any questions on any of that? Okay. So this last one is just a performer. I know you guys have been looking all night. This was just a quick example of semi-recent. This closed last month on the redone. It was a condo right here in Totem Lake in Kirkland. It was a quick flip. Again, it wasn't a huge profit or anything like that. I think the estimated holding months with everything to sell was ended up being 4 months. So just kind of walking through just a recently funded and actually resold deal. And I believe I hit the end somehow. Any questions? All right. Need James back then.
We'll get them closing.
That's random. It's like, it's so weird that I went there today, saw the property, I heard the property manager. You saw the same dog situation, I guess. Nobody just like to introduce you guys?
Yeah.
I don't know what your name is. I guess I was want to introduce yourself. You want to chat or want me to just have them come introduce themselves real quick or?
We can bring everybody there.
All right, well, I want to thank everyone for coming out. So Ray, we're going to introduce the brokers real quick. They'll introduce themselves, and then we're going to hang out here and answer any questions you guys may have, and we'll kind of go from there. So let's start with Dom first.
Guys said hi at the beginning, but my name's Dominic. I'm primarily the Pierce County South Sound broker, so it's like we're working with a couple of folks in the room, which is really exciting, but I think all of us bring a whole different level of the game. We're all here to help everybody, so excited to talk with you guys a little bit more after this and going forward.
I'm John. I do South King County, so it's basically Bellevue all the way down to Auburn. So if you're interested in any opportunities there, you can give me a ring.
I'm Jen. I take care of the multifamily acquisitions here at Heaton Dainard. So if anybody's interested in multifamily, please come and introduce yourself, and would look forward to getting to know you.
I'm Vlad. I'm I don't know, running a little late. I work in Core Seattle, North King, parts of the east side, the other side of John. Would love to work with you guys.
My name is Garrett. I met you guys before, Snohomish County. I haven't met you quite yet, but I'll try to see here in a little bit. Snohomish County?
So say again?
Snohomish County? Are you like?
Interested? I'm not living, I'm in Sammamish, but interested in Snohomish, yes.
Oh, no, we're in Snohomish.
Just behind the school,